So what happens when you step off the beaten path and you make an IM very, very different from that? It has potential. It is a really great sounding driver. So here's a question. Who is the MS5 Dark Angel for? What is the meaning of life? What is my wife thinking? So, I'm asking you, are you treble sensitive? I'm saying right now the MS5 Dark Angel should have been called the Bright Angel. I would be shocked to see this thing shilled out on the market, but I know it's going to happen. I hope it was intuitive. I hope you learned some stuff, as I have, about psychoacoustics, the Harman curve, the way the MS5 is presenting because of the way it is tuned. That cable, quite honestly, is one of the worst pairings you could possibly do on an IM cable. Hello everyone, this is the Tone Deaf Monk here on a glorious spring day and me without pants. Alright, so today's video is going to be on the Hidizs MS5. My video will be called A Lesson in Balance. The MS5 is the latest in the Mermaid series from Hidizs. It is named the Dark Angel, but it should have been called the Bright Angel, and not because it's an enlightened being. So follow along. I was one of the ones that was chosen as I reached out to Hidizs to be a reviewer for this IM. I was super excited. One dynamic driver and a bunch, 4 to be exact, of Sonyan, those are made in Denmark, balanced armatures. I have a bunch of those in some of my favorite IMs, so I was keen to review this one. As of this date of shooting this video, I still have, nor have you, know the price of this IM. I want to thank Hidizs for choosing me as one of the reviewers and allowing me to share my impressions and bring this one to you. As a reviewer, you guys are going to be really confused on this one. I'm telling you right now, as always, you know, I am true to monk self, that'd be me, and true to you. So here we go. As always, my videos now are time-stamped, and that's also in the description. You also find the purchase link, and you also find my test playlist, though we'll get to that. As I said, this one's going to be interesting on the reviews and the feedback that you're going to get. So either you're going to hear the MS5 is the best thing since sliced bread, or my ears are bleeding. Either way, it's going to be easy to see who is going to be shilling this thing because they love the extreme niche tuning, or who's going to be giving you the straight goods. So let's get on it. Number one. this IM is not for me. Got that out of the way. Number 2, this video is about information to help you determine if the Dark Angel is for you, or maybe help you understand a bit more about tuning. As you will notice, I'm actually reading some stuff, and instead of me just shooting it out there, I actually needed to write this down and educate myself a whole bunch. I really wanted to understand and not just leave that comment out there that this isn't for me and pounce on a product. That's not really my thing. And as one of the reviewers, I'm doing my certainly due diligence. So follow along, please. And I thank you for watching my videos. Thank you for subscribing, and thank you for giving me the thumbs up, and also leaving your comments. When I got time, I like to respond to those as well. So thank you very much. Let's get into some of the unique features. Now, Hidizs has asked reviewers to go over some of their marketing points, and what I did is I took those marketing points and I tried to understand that a bit, little bit of a deep dive, and then bring them to you. So I apologize if it sounds like I'm reading things off of paper, but I'm reading things off of paper. Okay, number 1, the shell. They call this the human ear-like structure design. So Hidizs has designed the shell to be more closely matched to the shape of an average ear to conform to a more ergonomic shape for a comfortable fit without fatigue. Aluminum anodized CNC milled for lightweight and durability. Now, the shell itself is one I've seen, I think, before, but the anodization on the shell itself will make a very durable IM. Can get banged around a bit. It's not going to peel or flake off, and we've seen that just recently in our red one. So that's one point that it's a nice shell. I'll show you that in a bit. The Hidizs exclusive soldering process. You know, when I read that, it was like, okay, well, what did you do? Instead of just marketing speak, you know, a lot of companies just, and it doesn't translate from Chinese, it's more Chinglish. So the exclusive soldering process, was it? Okay, so it's using an element of gold in the tin wire, and this helps with anti-oxidization. It adds an element for the great transmission of the electronic signal and excellent stability factor. Okay, that sounds... They do put some gold in electronic components, high-end stuff. You normally see that. Sony loves to boast about that in their DAPs for the transmission of the electronic signal. Whether it helps or not, I don't know. You're going to pay for it, though. That I know. Number 3, Hidizs Pneumatic Sound Tuning Filter, trademarked. Okay, this one's a bit of a stretch. 3 different sound profiles using various tuning foams or none inside of the included 3 nozzles. I'll go over what some of the real-world effects are, and we'll talk more about the graph later. The silver nozzle, I looked inside, didn't have anything, so there's no dampening. It's just a round nozzle. Right? You get 3 sets. You get a silver, a rose, and a red one. So the silver one was full pull on the treble. Yep. Rose gold, medium density phone. So this one actually, in real world, knocked 3 dB off at 5K. Remember those numbers. The red one had a higher density foam, and it knocked 6 dB off at 5K. And I wrote, still tons of energy at 5 to 9K. I'm going to get into that. Okay, number 4, 5 drivers per side. That's 10. This is a good thing that you didn't skip any classes in grade 2. Neither did I, apparently. So, uses one 10mm dynamic driver. This is actually kind of neat. So it uses a Kevlar fiber body with an injection molded liquid silicone center. Think of this as a sandwich, a dynamic driver cone sandwich. So here you have an incredibly thin and light and stiff bread. And inside, as the sandwich meat, you have they inject liquid silicone. And I've seen this in the other high-end drivers throughout time, and it works. The Kevlar is only like 0.03 millimeters thick, and the liquid silicone is less than half a millimeter thick inside. So we're talking pretty thin, light, and stiff. It does make for a very light and stiff driver. The thought here was to create a driver that would also absorb vibrations and reduce interference for a more natural and soft sound. From my listening, I will say achieved. I give you 2 thumbs up, but I'm holding on to my papers. The rest of it is 1 Sonyan 17A003 low frequency balanced armature. These are some interesting choices, by the way. 2 Sonyan 2389 mid-high balanced armatures, and 1 Sonyan E50DT high frequency driver. There you go. That is the consistency of what is inside that little bad boy. Let's continue on with some specs. It's using a 2-pin 0.78 connector. The cable itself is 8-core. It's an oxygen-free copper silver-plated cable. It only comes at 3.5 millimeter, no module or balanced. Honestly, that is unacceptable at this price range. And I know this is over $350. So even, yeah. It has these really funky kind of molded terminations at the end. And these little things are, those little clear, they're like 10 times more expensive than just putting a metal end on it. Okay? The problem with also that cable is they bent the ear hooks really, really tight for small ears. Didn't make sense until you listen to it. That cable, quite honestly, is one of the worst pairings you could possibly do on an IM cable. It's just and I'll go more about the cable and elements. It's too bright. It should have just been a pure copper cable. The sensitivity of the MS5 is up there too, 104 dB, and it has a really low impedance of 5.3 ohms. It comes with a nice case, white one, and a semi-hard case. It's too big to put in your pocket, but as a storage, it's not bad for your desk. Again, I would rather prefer and see something like the SimGot EA500's case, where it's more, you know, pocketable and just makes more sense for daily use. So let us get into the next section. And this next section is about tuning. And this is where the educational part of my review is coming into play. Because I really, really struggled to understand why this IM is not for me. And I really wanted to, because it was a unique experience for me, and it has enlightened me on my journey in this audio hobby. So I'm trying to share this with you to help you understand as well. Tuning. So let's talk about tuning. There's lovers of Harman and non-lovers of Harman curve tuning. just to talk about HARMAN, the research and the development and the blind listening test and the years and years of research into this. The HARMAN curve was developed and to help understand how psychoacoustics and how we perceive good sound, right? That's the whole idea of the whole study of HARMAN. There has been numerous. There has been extensive over the years with blind listening tests, and ultimately they came up with the HARMAN curve. And subsequently, the different variations of, there's been over the years many different versions of that. Studies have found that for a great majority of people from all ethnic groups, gender, and age. Okay? So 65% of the people that got blind taste tested? Yes. No. Listening tested on this case. And chose the mainstream HARMAN curve and perceived the sound to be represented in a natural and tonally correct way. 65%. That's more than half for you. 15%, are you ready for this? Like 3 to 6 dB more bass. Bass heads, are you listening? That's you. You're a minority, by the way. I'm there with you. Predominantly, this group is male and they're younger. Now, 21% wish for at least 3 dB or more less bass and more output above 1 kilohertz, 50 plus and female. You're called a treble head. That's what you are. Now, let's talk treble. If this was Star Trek, we'd be talking tribbles, but we're not talking tribbles, we're talking trebles. Okay? 2.5K to 9K. You ready for this? The high end of the audio spectrum and the sharper sounds you hear in music. The reason I'm going through all of this, it will make sense at the end. Just bear with me. Hi-hats, cymbals, sibilants, and the upper harmonics of other instruments, and of course vocals, both male and female, are coming in this range. Now, overdone treble makes the music sound too sharp, especially if bass and mids are missing. Overdone treble makes the music sound too sharp, especially if bass and mids are missing. You got that point. Low treble, now 2 to the 5K range, where instruments now get their clarity, detail, articulation. Not enough in this range, and we perceive this as lacking clarity and details, especially on vocals. I'm not making this stuff up. Too much in this area, especially at 4 to 5K now, is downright painful for some. Okay? Now in the higher treble, 5K and beyond. This one is similar to bass in this range, where it is often rather felt more than it's actually heard. And in this area is where we can get our airiness, our brilliance. In a low value with not much energy, we perceive now the sound is dull. And in high values, it comes across as hissy and excessively airy. So this is the area matters most to our ear shape and it's very subjective. This is person to person. We're going to hear more of this, and it really depends on our inner ear. So I'm asking you, are you treble sensitive? I'm saying right now the MS5 Dark Angel should have been called the Bright Angel. MS5 tuning. Well, okay. For someone like me who is treble sensitive, all that extra energy is painful. In the tuning, let's just start at the base of the MS5. I know for me, EQing the driver itself is pretty awesome. When you EQ this thing up, it has potential. It is a really great sounding driver. It's just really too bad it's overshadowed by the highs and underutilized. It actually just feels neutered. What exactly is the low frequency Danish Sonyan 17A003 doing is what I was wondering, because I can't hear it exactly. If it's tuned correctly, it should have added some serious BA slam into this MS5. But it sounds like the crossover is either not positioned at the correct frequencies, or it's just not getting enough juice, or the upper two Sonyan 2389 BAs are getting just too much power and just overpowering everything else. So moving on to the mid-range, we talked about the Harman curve. So what happens when you step off the beaten path and you make an IM very, very different from that? Well, the MS5, and I'm going to pull up a graph here. Let me switch over to the charts. And at this point, I'm going to do a shout out to Paul Wasabi for being such a great human being. He has helped me huge. He has shared his graphs and allowed me to use them, and his insight and feedback were instrumental in this review. Thank you, Paul. It is appreciated. I got a graphing rig coming, and so hopefully I can do my own. But the peer feedback is fantastic. Same as Bennett Kelly for me and Kevin Davies. They all have been great. So let me flip this around, and then I'll show you some stuff, and I'll keep talking about it, and it'll make more sense. Okay. All right, there is the Hidizs MS5 in all its glory. Good luck in unseeing that. All right, moving on now. Let us talk. Not the case. Let's not talk about the case. We can talk about tips. That's the tips that it comes with. Vocal ear tips, bass ear tips, balanced ear tips, none of which unfortunately fit me because mediums are too small, larges are too big. I have two different size ears, and I couldn't use any of them. Here's the little filters. They come in this little metal thing you can unscrew. Here is me playing around with more stuff inside. Of course, I listen to this thing without it. Any of this stuff. Oh, little screens fall off really easily too. So let us go into tuning, shall we? All right. Okie dokie. We left off at the mid-range. So let's talk about... Here's their sub-bass over mid-bass. That's a nice glide. Now, most IMs have a gain starting at around 1,000 hertz. And you normally have a rise over here. Okay? And that is going to do a lot into the mids and the upper mids. Now, the MS5 doesn't start to see energy, get my pen out of there, until 2.5K. You can see from the graph. This area is so important actually now for vocals and how they come across to us as natural or organic with the right weight and tonality. especially for male vocals and to a lesser degree female vocals. Not enough energy here is going to sound, it's just going to come off as a loss of clarity. And you just notice something is missing. This is exactly what's happening with the Dark Angel. If you put too much energy in this region, it adds a thickness and a warmth, but that is not what's happening here. Okay? Treble. Oh boy. The tuning nozzles now, as you can see over here, Paul's graphed the 3 different nozzles with the filters in stock. They only knock down a few dB at 5K. There's just not enough to make any difference to the overall tuning. The tuning nozzles in the MS5 is not effective at all. We have that's not the biggest problem with the MS5 though. Even when we have the plus 7 dB bump at 2.5K, there's a dip you can see at 3.5, 4K. And then there's another bump to like a plus 7 dB at 5K. So even with the red filter, the 5K energy is 3 to 4 dB greater than the bass shelf itself. And so and let's just keep going. So normally we see an 8K spike that is normally contributed to a coupler resonance peak. I don't think that's the case here. In fact, you can hear it. The 8K and beyond being the highest peak with the most energy and sustained at that level beyond 8K. So instead of getting your vocals in the upper mid-range, you get blasted with so much information. Vocals are pushed into the lower and the upper treble region, where this area and energy are normally used to add air and presence. You are getting that in spades, but at the expense of natural vocals and note weight. Instrumental will not sound correct and vocals sound thin and pushed back into the mix. 100%. Now remember, if I asked you if you were treble sensitive, I am. This is what happens to people like me with a tuning like this in the MS5. So what happens? Well, what we hear is all that extra energy from 5 to 9K. It's like a metallic buzzing that literally just overpowers everything else. Vocals already being so thin gets drowned out, and all you can hear is just a metallic noise. Mid-bass, honestly, is non-existent, and you get thump, 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 sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. That's it. That's what you hear. So, what can you do if you're treble sensitive? What can you do if you're treble sensitive? What if you want to find a happy place, right? Well, here's my, really, 6 steps to a happy place. And this is what I did in my journey with the Hidizs MS5 Dark Angel. Okay, number 1. Using super narrow bore tip. I normally use wide bore tips because I like my stage and my presence and my airiness. I don't want to kill all that, but I can't deal with that information, that upper treble. If you use a super narrow bore like the Final E tips that I did, it increases the perception of bass. Yes, it did. Reduces perception of treble. Yes, it does. Kills stage, details, and vocals. Yes, it did. It makes the treble more manageable. Yes, it certainly did. Cable. That factory cable with silver in it. Oh, man. Don't put silver in a cable that is a bright IEM unless you want to accentuate that, or palladium. Both elements, you know, for people who can hear a difference with cable have observed the following traits of different materials. I am one of those people that can hear differences between cables. I do cable roll. Not that you read some of those reviews on HeadFi where it's like a world-changing event where it will completely magically transform an IM. No, it doesn't. It does change the characteristics in a bit. It's like changing tires on a car. It will change the feel and the road handling. Same thing, I think. So these are observations. Pure copper adds tightness to the bass presence but does not enhance the highs. Totally think so. I have a XI-NHS cable that's gold and copper, and I love this cable for doing exactly that. It just enhances the bass, tightens it up, and doesn't enhance any of the highs. That's what I ended up trying on this IM. Silver, and to a lesser degree, silver-plated copper. So they use that kind of cable to bring out and help bring out the high frequencies. This is such a horrible pairing between the Dark Angel and that cable. And being 3.5 with no options for modular or balanced either. So gold, I find, enhances the vocals in the mid-range, and palladium is said to enhance the higher end of the spectrum. I have one of those cables as well, and I do quite enjoy it. So that's second step. Third step is sources. So my journey, Hibby R6 Gen 3, UP5 Shanling, Truth Ear Ola, AKM, Gishelli Labs, J2, shameless plug there. And then I used a couple different amps. I used a Tube Hybrid X-Duo MT604 and my topping A90D. The warmer the source on this IM, the better, period. Number 4, impedance adapter or IE match. Okay, I'm switching back again. Okay, so Paul and I were shooting the shit, and he says, hey, try this. I threw a 18 ohm impedance adapter on mine, and look what it did. And it's like, man, that added in a whole lot more bass. Definitely going to be a little bit more balanced in that case. And if you can see what happens at 1K, it starts to add energy in, right? It adds vocal weight. It also adds more energy at that 8-9K. So it made it a lot more balanced. And that is what Paul tried. And I also tried this little bad boy. Now this is an i-Fi called an IE match. Very cool little device. And what this does is you can take an IEM like this one, and you can, what you can do is you plug in, this is a balanced version, right? 4.4, and dial up your amplifier to get the most out of your amplifier. And this thing changes the impedance to either 16 ohms or 24 ohms. So very similar to this, but it actually smooths out a lot more. It made a wondrous difference to the MS5. All right, so that was, you know, stage 4 of my road to happiness. Stage 5. Let's EQ the shit out of this thing to see if we can knock some of that down. All right, Hibby, do your magic sage mage sound 8-ball. Still get that backwards. The MSEB, we're just going to call it. Very cool if you haven't tried a Hibby app, or you have one of their DAPs to do this. It does it in a way, not just parametrically, but actually with algorithms. It's a very cool equalizer. And more intuitive. If you want it warmer, darker, hit the warmer, darker. that kind of stuff, sibilants, non-sibilants, all the way up. I really tried this to make it correct and fix it to be listenable for me, and I failed. Sound impressions. I'm not sharing any. There's no point. I can't even tell you. I mean, after first listen, burn in 5 days, right? I gave this thing its due diligence. Stock cable, I tried, because one of my reviewers said, hey, you should really try a stock cable, but really at $400, you should be having other tips, and I don't expect you to have a i-fi IE match or, you know. Stock cable I used for my sound impressions. I used the stock filters the way they were. Did I miss one of those steps? I think I did. Anyway, one of those steps for me in my road to happiness was mucking with the filters. Like I spent like $20-30 on different filters, different foams, cotton, tuning foams, nozzle filters, everything. The problem is if you do this, you're muzzling your IM. It's just like the tips. It's just like the cable. It's just like a warmer source. It's just like using this. It's just like using the EQ. Everything you're doing is trying to change its inherent sound signature. But if the core is rotten, you're not going to be able to fix it. If there's something wrong with the tuning itself, if there's something wrong with the way it's crossed over, or the shell, or something inherently going on inside of, you can't fix it. I went through all of my but the problem for me and people who are treble sensitive with this, you're going to get 2 minutes in and your ears will start ringing, right? I mean, that's why I'm not going to do a written review on this one. To say this IM is not for me is an understatement. This IM has such a niche sound signature. It just, you know, leads me up to the sum up of this video. I'm going to ask you a question and leave you with a thought. So if this isn't for me, who exactly is the MS5 tuned for? Who is this for?
Who is this for? Who is this for? Who is this for?
Who is this for? Who's gonna buy this IM?
Who's gonna buy this IM? If it's such a niche market for this IM, are you over 50? Are you female? Are you a super treble head that doesn't care about vocals? You know, who are you? If it's even tuned for treble heads, there will be missing some mid-range with this tuning. It just doesn't sound natural because you didn't put enough information where you probably should have. In the end, after my 5-6 steps to happy place, I couldn't get there for me. I just couldn't do it. In the end, my ears thanked me when I took these ones out and I put in the KZ-ZVX, the $20 IM. They honestly sound better. The bass sounds better. Anyway, that's how I heard and what I think the MS5 Dark Angel is all about. I hope it was intuitive. I hope you learned some stuff, as I have, about psychoacoustics, the Harman curve, the way the MS5 is presenting because of the way it is tuned. So to sum up this video, you know, I asked that question, you know, who is the MS5 for? Really, it's such a niche tuning that I'm not sure how many people it will appeal to. Did they make the cable and the ear hooks really super small because they think females over 50 are going to buy this up in spades because it looks funky and blingy. Maybe. I don't know. But in the end, I couldn't even EQ it to where I would enjoy it. So, going to be really hard for me or anybody who is a little bit treble sensitive to come close to recommending this. I would be shocked to see this thing shilled out on the market, but I know it's going to happen. I'd love to know if you love this IM and why, because it would be a mystery to me. It's a quandary, really is. I just know that I was truthful, I was honest with you, and I was true to myself as you. I don't EQ much stuff anymore. It doesn't make sense to me. I tip roll, I cable roll, I source roll. That's really as far as I should go, and so should you, to make something the way we like it. Tuning it in, dialing it in, okay? But if you need to EQ something to make it listenable, if you need to sacrifice stage and dynamics by putting a narrow bore tip on just so you're not getting ear-piercing ringing, and you have to go buy another cable, and you have to buy an impedance adapter. No, 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 and no. There you go. This is the Tone Deaf Monk. I want to thank you very much for watching my video. Here is the factory cable, the MS5 with the red nozzle filters in all its glory. I love you, and I'm out. Psychoacoustics. I can't even read my own writing. This group is predominantly, mostly made up of. Yeah, good luck in getting that. That helmet is going to be in your face at all times.